This little fucker is a rogue U.S. military asset and a danger to public safety. NORAD has deployed Reaper drones.
Bounces in such a way that it is like intelligent bouncing. So you.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well, much love, and we're talking about the Vallis Undermind today, Warframe's latest update. It has some really good content, and I'm always a pretty big fan of these updates because I really like new Warframes and I like little pieces of content, especially when it's like a new game mode. In this case, it's kind of a new game mode, not really. It's really more of a bounty system, and I have my own criticisms and praises of that, which we'll talk about in a second. In this case, I want to go over what I felt was done correctly, incorrectly, and substantiate my claims on those things. Taking a closer look at Nokko himself, the Undermine bounties, Nightcap, the whole system, both on vibes and like presentation, aesthetic, and the actual grind, like the meat and potatoes itself. How I think DE is coming closer to perfecting their like syndicate content island pieces. I think that they've gotten a lot better in some ways, a little bit worse in some ways, but they're working on it. So yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and bounce on it intelligently. Let's get to it. Nokko is basically perfect, to be totally honest with you. This is probably one of the best frames they've released recently, and honestly, not even just recently, just in general, both in terms of like flavor and actual like practical use. Everyone's already glazing this fun guy. I mean, I get it. I understand. It's very well deserved, and I'll make a guide on him like later in the future. I just can't really compete with the big guys when it comes to new content. However, because the positive information is already so saturated, so out there, I wanted to leverage some nitpick complaints I have about Nokko and see how you guys feel about it. So in the comments, tell me what you think. And I tried to get like one per ability, except for his passive. I think his passive is basically perfect. The Sprawlings are adorable, and having access to a revive with a frame whose survivability is kind of like funky, and having it tie in with that, I think was really well done. And I literally have no complaints for his passive. Most of these are going to be nitpicks or things I wish were done differently, not so much that like actual substantial criticisms. For Stinkbrain, I think the sleep is really good in it. I think that's really great. The problem is, of course, with new enemies entering the radius of Stinkbrain, they get slept and primed for viral. If you go for a max range build, which is probably the best build on Nokko, it's just not the one I go for. I go for a 175 strength build. This lets me get the max strength on Brightbonnet, but we'll talk about that in a second. Because the ring of Stinkbrain is so large, enemies are not as effectively grouped as they could be. Now, obviously, Spore Spring bounces around. It gets pretty good radius, so it's not a huge deal really at the end of the day. But just depending on your playstyle, a smaller range on Stinkbrain means that enemies will be better grouped up and put to sleep, which is really nice. I just like funneling more strength into Brightbonnet and Spore Spring. That's just my personal thing. And I use Roar as well, which we'll talk about in a second. I know it's not creative. I understand. Brightbonnet is basically perfect as well. I only have a few gripes. I wish there wasn't a cap on it. If you guys don't know, Brightbonnet has a 150% modded cap, which in turn leads to a Spore Spring buffed 300% cap. It cannot surpass that. I know there's probably like a bunch of broken interactions with like the Void Corruption buff and getting like insane power strength. Gloom would probably freeze the game at that point. I get it. But I don't really like any kind of like artificial strength gatekeeping. That's kind of, it's like an arbitrary number. It's kind of weird. I'm not a huge fan of that. I also don't understand why this ability can give energy to channeled abilities as like a helmet option. I think that's fine. It's just inconsistent. Like, where do we draw a line? I understand like Dispensary did that, and it's pretty similar to that, but this is like so much stronger than Dispensary in terms of energy. And it just kind of depends. This is a criticism, but it mainly like, it makes me ask like where DE wants to move with energy economy. I'd like more consistency, right? If we're not gonna let Stynex help frames like Mesa when they're ulting, with Rally Point and Nourish, then like what, I don't know. I think it's a little annoying, and it means like certain frames get kind of taken out of the energy economy and helping their teammates, and some frames are just broken with it, or in this case it's a helmet option, so even better. Reroute is kind of the odd one out of Nokko's kit, but it's super good. Basically, it's kind of like a side grade to Ripper's Whale, where you get like movement and complete invulnerability for a long time. Your little caked up mushroom little guy, which is awesome. Being immortal's cool. The wiki is really inconsistent about like how Arcane Crepuscular works during it, whether it like quantifies as like invisibility or not. It seems like it does, but obviously the power strength does not matter because you have to cast Spore Spring before you hop into little guy mode. So therefore, and that's snapshotted, so it's basically you don't gain much from the power strength when you're using Reroute, which is really unfortunate. And the icon doesn't show up, apparently. That's a bug. Whatever, I'd like that fixed. Warframe already kind of struggles with like buff and damage communication consistency, so hopefully they get fixed. The main change I would make to Reroute, though, is I really think the little orbs you collect should be way easier to get. I don't know if you guys can say it's a skill issue, that's fine, but the spawning of the little orbs you pick up during reroute does not feel intuitive. The movement feels pretty good, but I would like this ability to be like a shitty Cloud Walker. I think I'd really enjoy that if it was a bad Cloud Walker. I like that a lot. It does help with survivability, and it's an adorable ability as well. I really like it. If I were to change it though, if I were to give it one buff to make it feel better with Nokko's kit, I'd make it so that while you're in the Sprawling form, the duration on your mushrooms are paused. I think that would be really cool and a way to like keep it in the kit and make it more synergistic, because as of now, reroute, while being a really great tool, doesn't have a exact place in the gameplay loop. It's more of like a panic cast or like a defensive cast, which isn't like a bad thing. I'm not saying every kit has to be Harrow, because Harrow's like perfection, but you know, that would be how I would change it. I'd make it so that when you're in the little sprawling little man, little caked up mushroom form, you have the durations on your mushrooms paused, and maybe like Spore Spring can bounce a couple more times. I don't know. Speaking of Spore Spring, this ability is fucking awesome. I love Spore Spring. I think it's so cool. Having a Warframe ability come closer to what our weapons are currently capable of is really exciting. I think the caster, like the mage playstyle, starts to fade off, and the threshold of what acceptable abilities are for damage gets tighter and tighter. And so like if you really enjoy playing, you know, this is an example I always use, but if you use like Mage Volt, that playstyle falls off in Steel Path. Electricity damage does not, the numbers are not high enough to function. I like that Crepuscular works with it, but to be totally honest with Spore Spring, I wish that other synergies like Puncture, like Cold worked with it. That way I was incentivized to do more than just equip Crepuscular, and honestly I do feel a little bit, and this could just be my brain rot, but I feel a little bit gated into like the Hurras, Roar, Invis, Nuke setup. I use like the full mecha set, stuff like that. I think it's really strong. I've tried a few other things, but when you have like Nokko's kit, which has like when you have something like Jade's, what is it, Power of the Seven, or Bright Bonnet, like power strength takes you so much further than it did initially. So you feel kind of gated into a setup that wants Roar, because Roar is, again, please add more ability buff abilities. Like, I'm so sick of taking Roar every time I want to play Mage. It's super annoying. I'm not saying you have to do that every single time, like Geyer's not really, whatever, anyway. More options besides Roar would be nice, but I do personally, you guys can tell me your builds that you're using. I've tried Evade, I've tried a couple other things, and I just, nothing compared to the Hurras Kubro setup with my Paris Prime stat stick, and that's like obviously a very high investment build with a lot of things working together, but that's just bar none the strongest build I've set up so far. But I will say, overall, they could never add another change to Nokko ever for the rest of my life, and I'd still be incredibly happy with the way this frame turned out. But let's talk about actually getting him, the Undermind, all that stuff. It's kind of a mess, but I have a lot of things to say. A lot of words, unfortunately. A lot of thoughts, I fear. So the rewards here are really good, in my opinion. The Undermined content is absolutely worth doing, even past Nokko and the Arbor Step. Arcane Adapters for Archguns is really sick. Obviously, like, different Archguns are... The Archguns that were bad are still bad, and the ones that were good are now amazing. And, you know, some come with Gravamags built in, so on and so forth. I like it the most because I'm very much against the RNG loadout stuff when it comes to EDA and ETA. I don't like it at all. It makes me not play it unless I need, you know, I stopped, basically once I got my R5 Arcane Hotshot, I stopped doing it because I don't care to. I have like 60 of each Archon Shard, primary color, I'll be fine. I just don't enjoy the content. So being able to summon the Archgun when gear is not taken away is really nice. It allows some consistency there. So there's also a lot of really good cosmetic options, like an insane amount of greenery. Like there's so many plants, which isn't like for everyone, but I think everyone should get a, you know, some people play Warframe to play Sims, you know, and they decorate their orbiter or their back room, and that's awesome. So huge boon for them. I do have some criticisms for the grind, along with some praises. First, a very important disclaimer for those with ball knowledge. You know that this is DE's like small drop content, right? This is not a big update. They're generally not going to be revolutionary updates. My expectations were not sky high. Okay, I want to make that very clear. I'm still left feeling like a little wanting. I am satisfied, but I still want a little more. And also a lot of my, this is very subjective, a lot of my praises and criticisms actually fall into the same buckets, which is a good thing, because I think it means DE just needs to refine the processes themselves. And it means that like some mechanics in this game are like rotten to the core. This is not an example of that in my opinion. So I'll start with the praises and then we'll go from there. So the content is mostly super straightforward. If you guys don't know, it's just bounties. That's it. You're just doing bounties over and over. It's really straightforward, and most of the bounty objectives are very how do I put this? They're very slaughter centric. You're just really killing a lot of stuff. That is kind of it, and that's pretty engaging content for a lot of players. I think a lot of players enjoy that because that's what most Warframes have in common, is they can get rid of a lot of things at once. Enemy spawns are really aggressive and really frequent, which is I can't see much on the new player experience with that, although this is like post New War, I believe, is required for Nightcap, so that shouldn't be really a factor. Enemy spawns are frequent and aggressive, which is really fun. It means you can you know, when there's a lot of the slaughter-centric mission types in the bounties, it means that you can speed them up yourself more using better builds, which is something that Warframe can sometimes struggle with, where like they want to make the experience different or the same for people with better or worse builds. If your build's better, kills more things, you get the objective done quicker, but not so much that it's suffocating. I like the tile set a lot. I really liked moving around it. Mostly, I would say I enjoyed it. The whole atmosphere of Nightcap, of the Undermine, this is like genius. The world building here, and this is like this is par for the course for DE. It's so, you know, I'm still gonna glaze. I love it. I love the little corpus and the drones with mushrooms sticking out of them. It's so sick. It looks amazing. I love the atmosphere. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And it feels very at home here, so I'm really glad. Collecting the mushrooms is fun. However, the mushrooms should absolutely be server side or whatever, like to the point where when you pick one up, everyone picks one up. I think like I would say 50% of my bounty runs were slowed down by somebody having to go back and get a mushroom. I don't know why they're individual pickups. I don't understand. Does anyone like game design majors hit me up? I don't understand why they were like that. And I love the goofy like buffs and debuffs. The big heads and stuff. Like, I thought that was incredibly fun and like added so much flavor to it. I also think the Nightcap guy is like really fun to listen to. The voice actor did an amazing job, and I think his design's really cool. I just really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that whole, again, the world building's like amazing. And the event, this is the big thing. This is the biggest thing of all time. The event is not time gated at all, minus like crafting times, but that's par for the course. That's fine. There is no time gating. There are generally like three ways DE does these things. Either you're time gated out the wazoo and it sucks penis. Okay, that's option one. Option two, you can kind of build a nest egg of standing resources. That's like Deimos with mother tokens. That's like the collectibles in Sanctum Anatomica and what is the Chrysalith, the Zeraman, right? Or this new one is now a lot more thoughtful and not time gated at all. It just needs some refinement, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So, a quick note, I understand that DE really has not been able to win when it comes to these systems. If something is time-gated, it's stupid and dumb, which is true, by the way. True. But also, if it isn't, the average player tunnel visions and gets to the new content and like spams it until they hate the game. That happens sometimes. The repetition of these bounties did feel really insane, beyond the bias that is normally in that new content spam. I think what could have been done is just Fergalite being added into like random alerts, like they do with other events, other missions on Venus, literally anything. Any other way to get Fergalite would have been great, besides spamming these missions. I'll go back to the bounties. I like them. I still have to pick up arcane adapters for the rest of my arch guns, but just was not great. I think that either the numbers needed to be buffed or something needed to be changed. Speaking of numbers being buffed, the compost rate. So when you get excess mushrooms, it being one Fergalite is insulting, especially with what I'm going to talk about now. So there's basically a weird cross drop table situation between the three bounties, with either Nokko parts being the uncommon drop, or like a rare drop, the Arbiset part being the rare drop or uncommon drop, or both, whatever. And then the Steel Path rotating was really good. I like that the Steel Path version rotated. However, if you are grinding, you know, Arbiset, Nokko, the Arcanes, and especially the little mushrooms, the special mushrooms, they are tied to that bounty. So if you have like varying luck, you're forced to end up making decisions that can give you like 5 Nokko Neuroptics, and like you're still looking for the same Arbiset part. I don't know what the solution is. My only solution would be like, I think you should be able to compost your spare Nokko and Arborset part blueprints for a decent amount of Fergalite. That's probably how I would do it. But for me, and the experience I saw on Reddit and a couple other things, it's like, okay, so if you get lucky early on and you get like a Nokko part that's part of the uncommon rotation, you will have to spam another mission. God, how do I explain it? I think you guys can figure it out. Basically, with varying luck, you'll have to spam suboptimal bounties to get the one single thing you need while getting a bunch of crap you don't need. For example, the Nokko part you already have, the Arborset part you already have, the mushrooms you already have, that compost for an abysmal rate. Hopefully that makes sense. I think that the cross tabulation of the drop tables was creative and good, and it made you want to play different things, but it can lead to some really suboptimal systems because the pity mechanic kind of stinks due to compost rates being bad and not being able to get Fergalite more accessibly, which was pretty annoying, I found. The content is also pretty mind-numbing. This is the opposite side of the slaughter-centric coin, where like it's nice that it's simple, but it's still pretty mind-numbing. And there's not really a huge reason to come back to it. The evergreen rewards are fine, but I'm just bummed because I love the environment. I love the little sprodlings, the mushrooms, nightcap, all of it I love a lot. And the evergreen rewards, literally, they're plants. The Archon stuff, like the arcane stuff, is pretty good. And there's a lot of quality cosmetics. This isn't an event, this is a permanent update. So I will be coming back, and I will be grabbing the posters and the ephemera with the little sprawlings. But I think that this recipe is like right there. It just needs a little bit more refinement, and we'll have something absolutely great. I'm really excited. So my last criticism is, I'm gonna make my bias very clear here. I very much prefer longer form grinds. I like Disruption, Defense, Void Cascade, Survival. Those are my game modes. I enjoy them the most. But even without that bias, I absolutely despise having to load in and out of content repeatedly. I hate it. I hate loading screens. I hate having to run back to Nike. You know, obviously the most you can do is hit the repeat mission, go back in and out of the elevator. I understand it, but you're already doing mind-numbing glorified exterminations most of the time, or glorified like defenses, and then you have to do the mind-numbing back and forth. I hate that. I really don't like that. If there was any kind of streamlining of that, that would just be incredible. I understand like we're doing like bite-sized Warframe stuff. I get that. That's good. I really don't like it being bounties, especially bounties you can't re-enter. You're basically just spamming a mission over and over. And I will say the elevator works really quickly. This isn't Destiny or some shit, thank God. But I think a streamlining of that process would have been great. And that's really it. I would say if I had to put a number on this whole thing, I'd probably give it like a 7.5 out of 10, 8 out of 10. There's definitely some under delivery here, and my standards are quite low when it comes to this kind of content. Admittedly, we've been receiving this kind of content for some time now, and so for me, my standards are admittedly a little bit low. So I'm less disappointed than I think some other people might be. But overall, I still really enjoy this. The flavor here is intense, and I am a sucker for flavor. I love when things are cool, when they have a very clear artistic mind and aesthetic, and that carries a lot of this immediately. I am pretty interested in what's going on here. I think it's really cool. Fortuna always needed a little more sauce. It's one of my favorite open worlds. So yeah, please, in the comments, let me know what you guys thought. I personally thought it was fine, hence the name of the video. But overall, I would say I enjoyed it, and I'm just excited for the upcoming content. This is a drop in the bucket of water for what DE I think has coming next. So let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video. Much love, happy Halloween, and all that garbage. You know how it goes. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.